a couple of reasons. One, I had started, as I get into my late 20s, I had started getting like more hip issues. Um, so I would always be, from physio, I was always interested in like movement and movement mechanics, like how the body works. So I would have been doing it for as rehabs for my patients, but I really got into it for myself and started thinking about like what are the key injuries that are caused from running, like hip pain, knee pain, kind of back issues, shin problems. And the way I thought about it was that we should be, what running is very good for is like burning calories, cardiovascular fitness, but it doesn't use the muscular system. And the second thing is the range of motion is very limited. So that can be a big issue because you're using a small range of motion and you're not really activating the muscles. So the ligaments, the tendons, and the joints are taking all the load. And there's a lack of variation. So the same part of the tendon is taking the load, or the same part of the knee joint or the hip joint is taking the force. So I needed something. I knew this instinctively, like that it's that passive structures get overloaded because the muscles aren't doing their fair share. So what I needed was to do something once in a week that essentially woke up those muscles. Like I'm sitting on a desk, 8 hours in a day, and it's like a stretch, 30 seconds of a stretch isn't going to cut it. That's not going to do it. Like you need to really fire up those glutes. And sometimes we give free trials with the Sports Pilates, and I do it because I don't want to con people. Like it's not that easy. Like it's beginners, so I start, but it's like you will be burning because that's what it takes. You need to fire up the muscles, and that then takes pressure off the areas to get injured. Even with like calf issues or Achilles, a lot of people are doing heel drops and heel raises, which are fine. But for me, the issue is that those areas are overloaded. They're working too hard. So the solution is not just to make them stronger. They're already strong. The solution is to wake up your hamstrings and your glutes and get your core firing, and then increase the range of motion. So it can be Pilates, it can be yoga, it can be strength training, but you need something outside of running to keep yourself injury free. Now you can do strides, which are great, and triathlon's great because you're just varying up the stimulus as well. I would recommend people to do triathlons over just straight running, just for health and fitness wise. But that's why I came up with it, and then I've just evolved it. It helped my hip. I had shin issues, like because I've been running at a high level. Like I'm current European over 35 3K champion, and I've been running since I was 16. So that's like, I'm 36 now, so that's 20 years. You are like, my left shin was sore, my left knee, my right hip, my right shoulder. So I have had a lot of niggles. So it's important to do things, a 45-minute piece in the week that switches on the muscles to take the pressure off the joints, because I don't want to have joints when I'm 45, 50 that are completely worn down, and if I'm using the muscles, they're taking the pressure instead. That was very long-winded, but I hope that was okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so first thing with knee injury, if it clicks, if it locks, or if it give way, you got to get an MRI. Okay, so clicking can be okay if it's locking. So if you're going down the stairs and it feels like you can't move it, you got to like flick it out of the way. Or if it kind of buckles underneath you, that's not a good sign. If it's anything else, this advice would help. A lot of times, right, the body is designed that every second joint should be mobile. So the ankle should have good range of motion. The hip, or the knee, is a hinge joint. It should only flex and extend. The hip is a ball and socket. That should be able to move. The lower back should be stable. Predominantly we see hip or knee and back problems are the most common things because we get very stiff in our ankle, we get stiff in our hip, and we're programmed to move. Like we're programmed, like our like our DNA, our like evolutionary processes have not grasped that we got a fridge in our house. They think you need to hunt or you need to gather food. So it's why we get nervous. Like when you get nervous, your mouth shakes, or you have like butterflies. That's like blood leaving your stomach to go to your muscles to either fight or flight. Now that's not helping me doing a presentation, but that's our makeup that we have. And it's the same thing. You'll always be able to move because it's like, if I'm not moving, I'm going to not be able to catch that freaking mammoth, or like, you know, some saber-toothed tiger is going to be coming after me. So what happens is, at the knee, if you're stiff through your ankle and stiff through your hip, the knee tends to buckle in a lot. And then you don't get this like smooth running of the kneecap over the knee. Or if it's the ligaments, it could be overloading that. So you want to get the hip stronger. So you want to do a lot of like glute clam work, bridge work, some hip mobility drills, and then ankle mobility drills like heel drops, heel raises would be a good one. If you're doing balance standing on one leg, and imagine there's a laser on your kneecap and you want that laser pointing forwards the whole time. They would be some of the things that can really speed it up. You can see that I'm not talking about getting the knee stronger. I wouldn't be a big fan of like lunges or squats. And if that guy's got a dodgy knee, I'd be probably leaving them out forever. I would be looking at getting you moving better at the hip, moving better at the ankle. And now all of a sudden the knee has to do less work. So it's under less pressure. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just keep hanging out with older athletes to feel young. That's my trick. Do you know what's funny actually about that? Our group is all like, we're elite enough. But my other friend, he's like a master's. He's like all the records, masters over 40s, 45 now. And like, but because he's 9 years older than me, I forget I'm old relative to elite runners. And like, I qualified for Ireland at like 34. But I'm like, I'm only getting into this. And then I go and I'm running for Ireland at like a senior competition, and they're all like 23. You forget, they're talking about college, and I'm like paying a mortgage. You know what I mean? I just was looking around and go, oh yeah, like relative, I'm ancient. You know, for elite running, it's funny. Oh, legend. Yeah, that variation is great, isn't it? That's brilliant. You love to see that. And you can't complain about anything if there's an 80-year-old beside you. Like, he's not going to hear it. Like, okay, as I said, there's three things that basically cause injury. The injuries we get are all passive injuries. They're all the ligaments, the tendons, or the joints. It's different than like say soccer, where nobody tears a muscle in running because we don't use the muscles. So as you get older, even in 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, it's always the same approach. You need to have one kind of uh, muscle restorative kind of session, be it Pilates, be it some strength training, be it like rehab, whatever you want to do. You need to do that once a week. Then you need to take maybe like 2 rest days in the week. You got to remember that you're less active. So the way I would probably do it is like Pilates Monday, maybe an easy run or an easy cycle or easy bike. If you're varying up the training, it's great. And then maybe some kind of workout on a Wednesday. You could maybe do a rest day on Thursday, cycle or bike or swim on your Friday, some kind of workout on Saturday, and then do whatever, maybe take a rest day, maybe do whatever on a Sunday. That would be the thing. You need to, you can't continue load like you were doing, and you need to drop the intensity that you're doing, maybe from 3 sessions to 2. Like personally, I go workout on a Wednesday, workout on a Saturday with a long run, say on a Sunday. And then you need to have some kind of Pilates and then schedule in rest times. Like talking about that guy, he's 45, he has all the records. I know 45 is not, say, 65, but at the level he's running, the best advice he gives is you can't run when you're 40s like you did when you're in your 20s. Even though he's running as good as he did then, he's doing it in a different way. You're stronger aerobically, you're even stronger probably a little bit physically, but you don't recover the same. So we used to do 3 sessions a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Now we just do 2. You need to adapt. I used to do any Pilates or anything like that. Now I do. I used to take a rest day. Now I do. So if I get to 60, 4 days a week is plenty. Varying the training a little bit more, and listening to the body a little bit more would be my advice. Yeah. Like Ali's actually hit the nail on the head there when I read that and listened to that question. So it is that thing, right? Speed work is not like I used to be running 30-second 200s when I was in my 25s. Now I'm 65. Let's get the stopwatch out and see how quick we get to that. Speed work is just intentionally trying to, like, including some strides at the end of your run. And a stride essentially is just intentionally trying to pick it up. Always you should be doing things at like 90%, because it's consistency over time that makes the biggest difference. Like there's no one run or no one workout. So say for Ali, she's doing exactly, go slightly up a hill, because you have to go less hard, like there's less speed, but you're still getting the same intention. Do it on a bike, do it in a pool. You're changing the range of motion you're doing. You're changing your intention of slow plodding. So your coach is exactly right. You can't just do the same pace on the same lap the whole time and then go into a race. It's going to cause massive issues. She's doing it exactly right. Up a hill, on your bike, adding strides at the end of your run. And you'd find out, Ali, that like, say if you did it with someone else and you just kept that 90%, like just gradually try pick it up. I call it looking good, feeling easy. When I'm doing a stride, I imagine if someone's looking across, that it should just look like, oh yeah, they have good form. And in my body, I should be like, yeah, I'm feeling easy. Like if I'm really trying to show off a little bit, I'm not trying to go fast. I'm just trying to look like I'm a good runner. Okay, so never forcing it. Doing a few strides afterwards, but as she was doing slightly up a hill is exactly as I'd recommend, and then maybe even doing it on a bike. I hadn't thought about that, but that's great. Get Ali on the podcast. She answered a question better than I did. Yeah. Yeah, so like first I would start like targeting, like a 5K park run. You're not going to get faster doing half marathon distances. It's nigh on impossible. There's no way you can get ready for a 13-mile run and then also get fast. It's like, you're only in your second year. If anything, you probably want to get that base before you go way longer. So just targeting shorter runs. In your sessions, then again, I wouldn't do more than 2 sessions per week. But if you're focusing on a 5K, have one workout that's slightly 5K specific. So like what a slight 5K specific session would be like 5 minutes at your lactic threshold. I'd recommend everybody to get like an actual heart rate lactic threshold test done so that you know your appropriate zone, so you're not running too hard. It should be like, you should be able to say a sentence and then take a breath. So you could do 5 minutes at LT and then 3 by 30-second hills. And again, not super hard on the hills, but just trying to intentionally pick up the pace. Take 2 or 3 minutes off, do 2 or 3 sets of that. And then on the weekend, your second session might be 4 by 6 minutes at lactic threshold, which again is kind of more like 10k, like 10-mile pace, kind of more like 10k probably. A little bit slower than 10k, sorry, about 10-mile pace. For like 6, you could maybe do 6 by 4 minutes with a minute off, or 4 by 6 minutes with like 90 seconds off when you get good at it. So, and then just as I said to Ali, and as Ali said, maybe just doing a few hills after one of your runs. So your week could look like Monday you do your easy run, and afterwards you do 4 by 15 seconds up a hill with a walk back recovery. Tuesday you just do your normal run or your cycle or your swim. Wednesday could be your running session, and that's that session we talked about where you might do some hills, or you might do some like longer and faster kind of work. So you could do like reps on a track, like 1,000-meter repetitions. Don't overexert yourself. Remember, you're coming from a different background. So the intention of trying to go, that's one thing I'd say, and this is a tangent, but I think it'll help most people, is like I was doing a session and it was 2 by a mile. Then it was 400 meters at a 10k pace, which for me would be like 72s, around 71s for the 400. Now, that's when I was, that was when I broke 30 minutes. I'm not in that shape right now. I'm probably in like 31 minutes. So I just do it by feel, and they were about 75s. Okay, so that's like me running at 31. Sometimes when I say for people for race pace, they either pick an arbitrary number of like, I would like to run sub 25 or sub 20. But just do it off feel. Ask yourself, say if you're doing 60 seconds, do you feel like you could keep this going for your 20 minutes? If you couldn't, just go a little bit slower. Over time, you'll get much more out of it, and you won't be broken up with one particular session. Okay, so that'd be the thing. I would look at some intervals. Like you could look at some 5 by 3 minutes, or 10 by a minute, and then have one kind of slightly longer session like you're doing, but make it more like lactic threshold, aerobic threshold, as opposed to the much longer marathon sessions. God, I hope this wasn't meant to be quick fire, because we'll get about 3 questions done. Oh God. Oh, this is a great question. Yeah, doesn't surprise me. And you'll find it the other way. People who do shorter distances and then they go to get ready for a marathon can pick up injuries going long. There's a thing called the acute to chronic workload ratio. And what the acute to chronic workload ratio states is basically that it's not the load that you do, it's sudden spikes in the load. Okay? And the load could be running volume, but it can also be intensity. So what can happen is that basically, what was this guy's name? Sorry, Daniel, isn't it? Yeah. So what can happen with Daniel is he's not doing the type of work before he gets to the track. So say if he's probably maybe doing a half marathon or marathon on the road, and he's just doing all that specific work, does that, and then he's right to try do something shorter, but you need to be peppering in that type of work so it's not a massive shock to the body. So what Daniel should be doing is, say if he has a workout, maybe he starts it on the track and the strides are done on the track before he goes out onto the road for the rest. Or if he's done his easy run, do some strides on the track afterwards, like easy strides, 100 meters, nice and relaxed pace with a 100-meter jog, 100 meters, 100-meter jog, doing like 2 or 3 rounds of that. That will condition his body, and he's doing this when he's in his half marathon or marathon training. that conditions his body to be used to that little bit more speed, so that when he goes back on the track, his calves and his shins are not having the issues that they should. The other thing is those new shoes, with the soles and the carbon fiber plates, like the Vaporflies or the other ones. Come on, like, shout out for Inside Try. Let's get a freaking sponsorship going. Don't be so cheap. Charge me £250 for shoes. You can give it a sponsor. Anyone knows Nike are looking for a sponsor here, all right? But basically, they're actually very good for the calves. Okay, yeah, they're very good for the calves. Other brands are available, and we will shout them out if we can get those for free pair of shoes. So they're good for the calf. So if you're struggling with it, maybe get a pair of those type of shoes. It doesn't have to be Nike. Any of the ones that have the carbon fiber plate and they have a lot more sole in them, they do protect your calves. I think Daniel has said it was like a tib post, it was a shin issue. But the main thing is adding that work. That also goes for people who say you're doing 5Ks, but you want to do a marathon in a while. Keeping in a long run every like 3 weeks, 2 weeks in as part of your training is brilliant, because then when you go back to the longer training, it's not like you're going from a 6 mile long run and now you're trying to get like to a 20 mile long run in 12 weeks time. If you've had at least a few 90-minute runs, like 10-mile runs in there, it's much easier then to transition back up. Yeah. Yeah, no, sorry, do some strides. I actually think because we live right beside a track, so it's easy for us. That's why. But no, exactly. Just doing some strides at the kind of pace that you would imagine. Because if you think about it, if you're doing, say you go on the track and Daniel's doing 400 meters, it's not hard to do 100 meters at that pace and then take a minute jog. And even if you say you don't have the time, just in the run, pick it up and then jog really easy for 2 minutes. You'll get more out of the 5 minutes that you're doing those than you would constant running. And it shouldn't be that taxing on the body, say 10 seconds of a pickup and then 50 seconds really easy stride stretch, and include that as part of your run if you don't have time for strides. Oh, bang that off. Yeah, look, the only way to acclimatize to heat is to get heat. I know people have put like even turn up the heat inside, where a lot more, so you get used to sweating. Um, like if you're going to Kona, obviously you're at a very decent level. So if you can get some warm weather training, but trying to get a kind of heat variation. The other thing I would say is if you start doing that training, make sure you're getting electrolytes. We're just going to insert the electrolytes sponsorship right into here now as well. No, we're not giving any freebie brands out again. No, but just make sure you're keeping electrolytes in. So if you are doing things for heat accommodation, like indoors, having it warmer, getting used to that, then just make sure you have electrolytes as you're doing it, because you will sweat a lot more. And it's something that, even if you can't, obviously we're coming into winter here, even if you can't adapt that way, maybe on your fueling strategies, try add extra electrolytes in your fueling than you normally would. And it mightn't be needed here, but at least then you're used to taking those type of gels or those type of electrolytes when you're training, and that should help. So that's what I would say there. Yeah, really good question, Helen. I honestly would not worry about it until maybe like a month or two beforehand. So if it's a year out, just get fit. Do you know, like sometimes we can be looking for, heat acclimatation when really like there's a lot of other things in our training that we could be a lot better at. And then you might, if you had the time, going like say, there's two ways people do it. Say elite people will go maybe 2 or 3 weeks before the race, so they're kind of at the stage and coming up. So maybe it's a thing you can get over to Kona a week or 10 days prior to the race and get used to it. There's another way you could do it, which would be about 4 weeks out or 6 weeks out. So the last hard block of your training, say you maybe go down to like Lanzarote or somewhere hot, and you do the last hard block of your training at the heat to get used to the fueling when you're doing longer, you're doing a longer brick session, you're doing 4 hours and then 2 hours off the bike or whatever it is, and you're just getting used to it there. And then you come home for the 3 weeks beforehand, that's the taper, and then you fly. So it's either the last hard block or it's going out there, say 10 days to 2 weeks beforehand to get used to it rolling into the race. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, you're right. You have to be sub 25 at least. Um, and I actually really like that I don't think people do that enough. They don't go, there's just such a tendency for everyone to go super long because no one asks you your times then. Do you know what I mean? It's that thing of like ego is the enemy. Some of us are not, like, I can give you advice on the things, but my personal opinion would be the shorter you go, the more you're using your muscles, the less like your muscles be sore, but the less like real impact is on the joints. So even if you're doing an Ironman or doing a marathon, it's grand to do one, say, but really ask yourself, do you have the base to keep doing these things? No one's going to judge you if you do one good one, dropping down, like was mentioned here. Okay, the other thing is, one thing triathletes do crazy is because they could have separate coaches, they can go hard way too much. Okay, so they have a hard bike, and then they have the run session, which is hard, and then they go into the pool and it's hard. You do have to separate it. So if she has 4 times where she can run, yeah, 4 to 5 would be ideal. How I would do it would be, and if the run, so what I'm going to say here is that the run is the focus. So with that, then the sessions, the workouts are going to be running workouts. This would be different if you were asking for bike, whatever the focus would be, that's what I'm going to do. But let's say you think your bike is quite good, so that this is the way I do it. Okay, I'd go 5 days. I'd go Monday, you can go for a swim. Tuesday you could have off. Wednesday, now if the workouts are on Tuesday, just alter this around to fit you. It can be Wednesday or Thursday. Wednesday you would do some kind of workout. If you're getting ready, right, for a 5k, sometimes it's better to think about, like, if you were doing a 10k first for the first 4 weeks, and then you're dropping down the second 4 weeks to a 5k. So what I mean by that is you can still do, say, let's pick a park run on week 4, and then we'll pick the park run again or a good race on week 8 or let's say week 10 will give us time to taper. What that allows us to do is we'll have this first race as just a kind of get ready race, and then we'll have the other ones to be kind of primed. So what I would the week would kind of work initially would be a swim maybe on a Monday, day off Tuesday. The workout will be Wednesday. The workout would be initially some kind of 10k, some kind of AT, which is kind of marathon pace or lactic threshold pace session. So like we just mentioned before, I might do 4 by 6 minutes with 4x15 second hills afterwards, or 6x4 minutes at that lactic threshold. Trying to think of other hill ones that you could do. As I said, 5 minutes, and then 3x30 seconds hills, 5 minutes, 3x30 second hills. Then you could do on Thursday, you could do a cycle or a swim, or you could do a run. Friday, I'd probably give you off. And then Saturday would be your workout. So I'm just thinking that people are working during the week. So you want one that's more heart rate based. If you have to do it in the morning before you're getting up, you can. You could just jog for 15 minutes, do your little block, jog home. Saturday, you hopefully have a little bit more time. We can make that a little bit more specific. So one I might do is like a mile of a warm-up, or warm-up for like 15 minutes, then do a mile at like aerobic threshold, so marathon pace, and then do like basically 3 miles of work at like 400 meters. So what I would do is 4x1 minute at 10k pace, at 10k feel of 45 seconds. This would be an example. There's loads of sessions out there, but it's basically like 10k session, and then finish with a mile at aerobic threshold. So you're going kind of a mile, easing into it. You're going to do your little block in the middle, a mile, easing out of it. Now you can vary that and then on the Sunday I would do a long cycle. So I'm going to get the long run is going to be replaced by a long cycle, because it's going to do the same thing, but we still have 2 workouts in the week. Generally one is going to be very heart rate specific. The other ones that we have can be heart rate specific as well, a lot more times, so we're not going too hard, but it can be 10k. Then don't taper. In the 4th week, on the Saturdays, do a 5k run, see how you get on, and then we come back down. And now I'd still keep that like lactic threshold heart rate stuff during the week, and all that's going to change is I'm going to change the 10k session into a more 5k specific session. So that might be like 1,000 meters at predicted 5k pace, so like say 25-minute pace. Take a lap jog. You could do this is a great session. This is one of my favorites. You'll do a mile at lactic threshold pace. Then you do 1,200 meters at 5k pace. So it's tough because you're trying to go at 5k pace. Then you're doing a lap recovery between each of these. So you're doing about 2 minutes off after each of these. Then you do 1,200 meters at lactic threshold pace. Then you do 800 meters at quicker than 5k pace, generally about 3k pace. If you don't know the paces, just do it off feel. So you're just trying to do what you do. Say what you ever ran in your 5k, break that in. Okay, that's what I did per k. Just do that for a k. And then do slightly quicker. Do another 80, or like do that lactic threshold pace for 800 meters for half a mile, and then just do 160 seconds hard. And then following week you could just do some hills. So you're just basically doing heart rate stuff, 10k up, and have one race, and then you're going to do heart rate stuff and a little bit of 5k work, and you would be gobsmacked how quick you're going to run. Just the last week before you're going to have a key race, just take it really easy, cut the distance down to like nothing really, and then just try the race on that weekend, and you'd be surprised how well you do. Yeah. Sorry, can I just say, this was cheeky. Sorry. Just to say, like, it's just off the top of my head, but we give free trials with the Pilates. So it's Everard Pilates / sport free trial. Or just go to owneverard@gmail.com or everardpilates@gmail.com. We give in the free trial, we give like sample weeks for like of running for like 5k and general fitness, and then we have one for like 10k and marathon. We give those each week, but you could see that for a week as a template, even if you want to just do the trial, just to see what I mean there, and I kind of explain it, so it's easier when I have it in front of me. Perfect. Yeah. That's not a bad PB over the half marathon, actually. I thought he was worse than that. Yeah, definitely. Kind of what we even said to the last guest is using your long bike to recover. Okay, so you're still going to have your hard session on a Wednesday, hard session on a Saturday, or like Tuesday, Friday, Saturday. Um, but if you're only trying to get around, try to keep the aerobic up with the bike. So say if you if you do a marathon type session on the Wednesday, which might be like warm up for 2 miles, 5 by 7 minutes at marathon pace, off a minute easy jog, and then 2 miles cool down. The next day, do a longer cycle. So that's letting your body recover, because especially if you've done 5 hours, you're not probably that conditioned to running. So you for that person to try run the next day would be tough. So like have the longer cycles as a way to keep the aerobic threshold up. And it's the same on the Saturday then, if you're doing a longer run, um, so if you're starting at 2 hours, then the next week 220. On the Sunday, just do a long cycle. And that way you're getting used to that fat burning system. And you are also getting the running. Two things I'd say. I think Peter mentions that in his question. Practicing running for a while, power walking for a minute, like running 9 minutes, power walking a minute, doing that. It's the speed that kills you. If you can be taking breaks by running, it makes a massive difference. And then lastly, what was I going to say? Yeah, people are sometimes obsessed with trying to get up to like 20 miles. If you're doing 5 hours, that's impossible. Just go up to about 3 hours, 3:10. If that's 17 miles, that's fine. If it's 20, brilliant. But don't, once you start going over 3 hours 10, 3 hours 20, you're going to get yourself in trouble. Like that person's going to get injured or sick anyway. So in my head, build it up, no more than 10% per week, say from 2 hours if you're 16 weeks out, and finish. Don't do more than like a 3 hour 10 run. Because it's going to take so much out of you that you're not going to be really ready. You'd be better off do your 3 hours 10. It's still a long time out there. And just be prepared then for at least you're a little bit fresher for the race, rather than getting sick or injured after doing that longer effort of 4 hours because you wanted to get 20 hours done or 20 miles done. Yeah. Like all of them are the same. As I said, I would recommend the Pilates or something in the week to keep your body healthy, because again, as I said, you're just doing that slower running. You're going to do some kind of work during the week. That's, as I said, that 5 by 7 would be a staple. We do loads of different ones. I shouldn't really brought up the training I do just to show. Right there, do I have it? But basically what he's going to do, if he's a swimmer, on the Thursday he's going to go into the pool. So again, you've got to use your strengths. He can't go running every day. His body will just be broken up. So he wants to make sure that like at least the 2 major days are here. He has that time now, so I would start building up the marathon training. And there's 2 ways I would do it. I would do like a long run 1 week, and then the following week I would do so I do a long run 1 week, and then the following week I would do some sort of workout in my long run. So what that might look at like is 45 minutes. So one week is just say your 15 miles, just easy pace. But then the second week is maybe 45 minutes for warm up, and then a mile at 80. We do it off heart rates, and you can get these tests if you look up lactic tests. Anyone who does sports science, any college, they probably offer lactic tests. Like they're about £100, and I really would recommend to get one. So I do it off heart rate rather than pace. But if you just had to do it off pace, so you do a mile at that pace and then a mile back at the kind of run pace you were doing, and do that for say 3 or 4 miles. So mile in, mile out, and then just cool down with like 2 miles easy. So say if I did a 15-mile long run on Saturday, week 1, and I'll do my long swim on Sunday, so I'm recovering, but I'm still getting that aerobic benefit. For other people, they're going to cycle. The next week, I might be doing a 13 miles in total, but in the run, there's that bit of quality. So I'm getting used to running at marathon pace, tired. And that's the way I actually do for everyone's marathon training. I like one run, one long run, one kind of workout session run. So I do it in a 2-week cycle. And I think that works best. But if you aren't used to running, you got to take the easier days and maybe use those as like long cycles, long swims. But you need to get those, at least those 2 sessions in. And ideally, you might have like 2 sessions and a long run. So that week 1, I might have Wednesday a session, Saturday like a kind of 10k half marathon type of session, not too hard, and then Sunday would be my long run. If I was used to running. Does that make sense? Was that too? Do you think that's? Does that make sense to you, Helen? There. Are you sure? Just shout up if you don't, because sometimes it can be hard in theory. Perfect. If you're listening to this, right, and it's not. Oh, sorry. If you're listening to this and there's any follow up questions, I'll definitely do another podcast. I love this. I could chat about running for forever. So I got nothing going on. Brilliant. I would say banana peanut pancakes. I'm joking. Um, I would go with I don't actually I haven't much experience with ultra distances. I have a friend, he was he's a runner with us, and he went to the longer distances and he won a big 80k. I know he loves baked beans. Like not to eat, for the thing. He brings jars of the things, pops them open, and I was chatting to him about this. He thinks they're the best because he thinks it has a lot of energy and you get some protein in, and the glycemic index as well. I know some people use like little baby potatoes and have them as they go, but honestly, I'm not great on that. I would just ask other people who are doing these runs. They'll tell you what kind of works for them and just experiment with that stuff. But that's what he did, like just baked beans all the time. But again, as you said, I think she's doing the right thing. Thinking about different solid foods, you don't want to be purely on gels for that long. If you don't have to, try out what other people are doing in those races, and then you'll see what works for you. And a lot of times, just do it by feel. If it feels better, I would just do that. Can I ask you on that then, just for a second, Helen? Can I ask you on that? So then, what do you do? Just keep them in a bag, and then like so just like take your hand in at random, or will you have the cheese at one stage, the macarons at another stage? Yes, yeah, yes, easy, perfect, brilliant. It sounds great. You sent that on to me. I was meant to look it up again, but I forgot to. Yeah, so basically, yeah, they are actual chemicals. The chemicals are released in the brain. It's called endorphins. So they're released when after you run. I think they're also released for like pain relief. So I don't know if it's because you're stressing your body with like whatever the consistent running or consistent action does, that it releases the same kind of chemicals that are naturally released as pain relievers. So that's the runner's high, is basically endorphins being released around the body. Yeah, so it's an actual thing. It's like the chemical is called an endorphin, and it's that feel good hormone afterwards. I also think with our sport compared to others is like, I always on a run, I feel it's like, when people say like ideas come to you in a shower, or when you're running, it's like, it's nearly like meditative. If the action is so kind of rhythmical that it's easy just to be able to do. So it allows like your subconscious brain to like, it allows your brain to basically disengage. So because there's a lot of times when I'm stressed, I go out for a run, and because I'm running, it nearly allows me to like distract from that other thinking, or to think about it clearly, and I can nearly look around and be like, God, the world is beautiful at the moment, or like the sun will be really nice. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, if I was in my house, I'm like, oh my God, this problem is such a big deal, and I come back from the run and I've either solved the issue or I've got more perspective on it. It's like, you know what, life is good. So I think it's the two of the things. There's definitely chemicals, but I think there's definitely something about, like, anytime I have to think of an issue, I do listen to a lot of podcasts when I run, because I get bored running, like we all probably do. But when I need to solve an issue, if I just go without headphones, it's like such good perspective. Great. Yeah. So I have a book. It's free. So it's everardpilates.com/book. So EVERARD and that's or for rabbit, because I lived over in Newcastle. I did a master's in physio over there, and we say R or different than you say R, because I remember I was trying to spell my name and it was like, oh, what's oh? And I was like, they were like, oh, ah. And I was like, wow, ah. So we say it, I say like O R, and you say like AW. So yeah, that's what I'm saying there. So that book has has articles, just I write articles for the papers and stuff, just on training or staying injury free. If people would like to try a free trial of the Pilates, it's Everard Pilates/sport free trial. And as I said, we have like sample training weeks there. You can try the Pilates just to see if it's right for you. Look, if nothing else, you'll get an idea of the type of work that you should be doing. Honestly, Helen, they were like you sent on those questions. They were such really, really, really good questions, and it was really nice. If people have other follow-up questions, or I don't know if we can get three people on this, but I have no problem if they have follow-up questions, or if a guest wants to come on, we could chat to them directly. It can be easier sometimes because we can get their backstory. I'd be delighted to do that. You're like, I just go away. I'm not gonna. I don't want to hear from you again. Stop peddling your stuff.